Okay, we'll call the Ramsey County meeting to order. Order of business,
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This order of business, approval of minutes, any corrections?
Move to approve the minutes.
We have a motion approved, and we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Bills? Anything out of the ordinary, Candy?
Nope, just our first of the month, first of the year.
Motion to approve. Second. A motion and a second to approve the bills. Any other questions?
That wonderful DOT is the last big payment for Ramsey one, the paving out there that we did last summer. There'll probably be one more small one.
Well, that 12,000.
Yes, 12,247.
Where at, Kevin?
Where?
Where was it?
On Ramsey one.
That one, okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Roll call.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Britt,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Lightfon,
Aye.
Brown.
Aye. Financial reports?
We have a few, where we're waiting for reimbursement back from the state.
Okay.
Few accounts, otherwise it's a slow start to the year.
Move to approve.
The motion to approve the financial reports, is there a second?
Second.
There a second? Any other questions? Roll call.
Olson,
Aye.
Britt,
Aye.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Lightfon,
Aye.
Brown.
Aye. Treasurer checks.
Motion to approve.
A motion to approve the treasurer checks, is there a second?
Second.
Second. Roll call.
Lightfon,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Britt,
Aye.
Brown.
Aye. Approval of agenda,
Move to approve.
we have one to add. It's our state's attorney. You wanna call it, go ahead.
Executive session
Session.
to discuss, to get attorney consultation related to legal actions associated with the labor and employment of Deputy Jennifer Dvorak-Irvin.
Okay, put it on the bottom of the new business. Lucas, you made a motion to approve the agenda, is that all right?
I'll move to include going into executive session with the new business.
Okay,
Second.
well, the second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Bill?
Morning.
Aye.
Snowy morning again, huh? I'd like to thank the commission for letting us have the roundup again this year. Our first day was by far the biggest day that we've had at any one point. Very, very successful again. It's funny, you know, the weather was really cruddy that day, 47-mile-an-hour gusts. I get up and my wife says, uh-oh. I said, watch, we'll have more than ever because everybody's going to show off that new pickup. So thank you for letting us have the post that again. Secondly, we had our reviews last week. It was really early, so Commissioner Jeff, who was our portfolio manager, I didn't ask him to come early that morning. He was, and then our district director had talking to Jeff afterwards, but we all do have our jobs for another year, which is a good thing, even though it's getting closer to retirement, but not yet. With his comments that day, he did say that we are now #1 on the priority list for filling our FCW position. And he is still looking very positive towards that March, April timeframe for getting that filled. One of the things that probably will happen with that when that happens, if Sarah Leidy's willing, we'll probably just move her into that position, and then the FMP would be open, and they may likely fill that, but probably house that in Benson County. but that's unofficial, so I can't say that that can happen. So at this point, he was very confident that we'd have a full-time FCW by May at the latest. Thirdly, a suggestion and a request. During Roundup, now that we have the meeting room all more echo-free downstairs, I would ask that the commission consider putting in a overhead sound system like what's in the armory. It's just so much better of a system to use. So if you could find that in your budget sometime, I know others would appreciate it too, but that would really make that room really, really good. And then also mount a Proxima up on the ceiling, like the armory is. So something if you would consider in the next year would be grateful.
The sound pads really help, huh, Bill?
It helped. Yep, it helped.
You don't think with this overhead sound system will echo? You don't
No.
think it will?
No,
You don't think it will?
no, no. With that said, I don't know what your priorities are, but that historical room should have that soundboard in it. That by far is the worst room we have.
He's being worked on.
covered.
Oh, okay, I've not been in there, okay. So thanks for doing that. Otherwise, questions, comments?
I think the roundup was very successful, and I thank the chamber for doing the meal, lunch on first day, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
you're
So,
welcome.
thank you for that. I did have a conversation with Bill's supervisor, Ron, and we talked about an hour or so about the performance reviews from their staff. Everything went well. Ron's very happy with the operation of the office, and I think as we are as well. I think things are running very smoothly and progressing nicely, and he did also reiterate to me about the position. We're at the top of the list for the next one in line, so. And he didn't think that there'd be any additional county monies asked for through the legislative process this year. You know, I think there was a couple of years ago where they changed that funding formula, and he was actually hopeful that that funding formula could be returned to the way it was. So whether or not that happens or not would be yet to see. Nobody, I guess, knows what the legislature is gonna do or think or how they're gonna proceed, but he was very, very positive about our office and how things are going up there, so.
And they're also very hopeful that we'll maybe get a cost of living raise this year, so that would be helpful. We haven't had one now for 2 years, I think it's the third year coming up here. So they're pretty hopeful that that's gonna happen, but time will tell within the budget. And lastly too, with that said, I also would like to thank the chamber. They've been so easy and great to work with, and we even got to have tater tot hot dish this year.
You're welcome.
Same stuff.
Questions, comments?
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks,
Thanks, Bill.
Stacy?
Good morning.
Morning.
Another busy month, 95, and even with the bad weather and the days we were closed, we're still staying pretty busy. Continue to work on the military stand down that's scheduled for May 31st. In fact, this morning, if all the people can show up, they're coming here to look at the memorial building, the gym and the kitchen and the whole thing, just to get an idea of what we're dealing with. Just like Bill, the legislature, we're hoping that they'll find their way to refund or fund the North Dakota Veterans State Office. The monies they took away from them the last session hurt tremendously, and we have pretty much a unified of the association complete consensus that they need to fund North Dakota Veterans back to where it was, to gain back at least one full-time employee. We're hoping that's going to happen. Coming up in the end of March, we have our spring conference. That'll be a sign there what we'll see with what's coming up for the future. Other than that, I do want to mention that I don't know how many of you are aware with the veterans won a court case, appellate court case in Washington for the Blue Water Navy veterans, which is a big, big deal. Now, the VA can appeal, and it'll probably stay in court for a while, but if the appellate court holds, there's upwards of, across the country, over 70,000 veterans that'll get benefits that weren't receiving benefits before. So this is a big deal. So that's gonna make us very busy again.
That lawsuit was over veterans that hadn't been getting benefits?
Yep, anybody that was on a ship off the coast of Vietnam, and they were denied benefits, their health is just, anything the Vietnam veteran that had boots on the ground, what issues they have for health, all the ones off the coast are getting the same exact issues. And they were denied benefits because the government believed that the chemical never infiltrated the ocean. But
They were carrying it over in ships.
heck yes, we can't say that. I didn't say that.
I can't.
Yeah.
What's that, how a North Dakota bill number, do you know?
I don't know. I just been getting emails of people going down and giving testimony. And I think if you just Google legislature and veterans issues, you'll find it.
Are you sending messages to our local?
Oh, I've informed all of them.
Every week?
Yeah, well, not every week, but.
Go ahead, I give you permission to do that.
Okay,
Tell them the commission chair told you to do that.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
They know you?
They'll get to know me.
Okay, very good. That's all I got.
Yeah, they should get that money back in there for the vets.
Yes, exactly. That hurt tremendously.
Let's put some pressure on it.
Three full-time positions were lost.
Lost, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get them back in there. Everything else going good?
Well, it's busy, yeah, and I do want to thank the system that we have for the snow days we've been having. For me, because I'm coming, well, I take the wife to Dakota and then come over here. It's 50 miles one way for me to come to work. For all the years I've worked in Devil's Lake, off and on, and since back in '97, I think I started coming up here. We always made it a point to try to get here, and then get here and find out that everything is called off. With the text message system, even my wife likes to know if we're going to be going to work the next day. So I want to thank you guys for that. That is a smart system.
Yeah, I think it's working out quite well.
Oh, yeah.
The schools really like it, I know.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it because I know like to almost always get the night before message. That's perfect.
Yeah. Sounds good. Anything else?
And that's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Beth,
Good morning.
how you doing?
Good. I just dropped off a couple sheets with candy for you guys. The first one I have are the assessing charges for this year. There really is no change from last year, but I'm just showing you which townships and cities that we're responsible for. And then we still do have Mike Beamer and Daryl Jamza and obviously Gary Martinson working for a few of the entities. And that's what we are collecting from them. That's what the townships and the cities are paying us to do their work on that. I don't know if anyone has any questions about anything to do with that at all, or?
Do we base it off of amount of parcels or?
Yeah, what it is it's $1.10 for like an agricultural parcel or a vacant lot, and then $3.75 for like a residential parcel or that kind of thing. Obviously, it probably costs us close to that in gas, maybe sometimes, but you know, doing it for the townships at a reasonable rate seems appropriate still to me, but we could definitely look at changing the rate if anyone was interested.
No, I'm not necessarily saying we change the rate, I'm just kinda curious how we set the numbers,
Yeah.
number one, and two,
And then we
how long we've had it like that, I guess.
It's been, we've charged that since I've started working here, so that's about 9 years that I know of, and prior to that, I don't know. That's what they have, and yeah, it's based on parcel count. We review, try to review each year. The bigger townships, South Milwaukee and Creel, they have a lot of change where they might put in a whole subdivision, which makes a change. Some of the smaller ones, they see very little change. With the rounding, it pretty much catches their change each year.
They seem to be happy, I'm sure, huh?
No one's complained too much since we've done it, so.
That sounds good.
But if you'd like to have me review the price or even mention it at our township meetings or something in the spring, I could, if that's something,
That'd be fine.
see what.
It never hurts to ask the townships and see where they're at on it. I'm sure they're gonna tell you they'd like to get it as affordably as possible,
Right.
which is understandable, but at the same time, as long as we can at least cover gas and break even
Yeah.
that way, I think it's reasonable.
One thing about it, we're getting it done too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm sure the office is
Yeah.
quite happy with that.
so yeah, it is, it's a little less trying to communicate with different personalities and that kind of thing makes it a little simpler to make. Sometimes very small changes can become a really big deal otherwise. So that is, all I had of that, I just wanted to show you that for the year again. And then the second thing I sent was, we received the egg land value information from the state. If you look at it, it did increase again, which causes us to be out of compliance. So it looks like we would need to make some form of an adjustment in June when you make that decision. It was really awesome because over Roundup, Ron Haugen has now taken over doing all the egg land values for NDSU. He compiles these. And he was here and he stopped in the office and I got to meet him and he was really enthusiastic to talk to because he says there's not a lot of people that want to talk to him about it because it's such a complicated process that they go through. So it was nice to meet him and get information from him, and then afterwards I actually emailed him and he ended up calling me back and I said, I have 2 questions for you that I'd like to just for this year just to kind of know because it occurs each year. So one, I was wondering if you can tell me what caused, we had about a 5.5% increase this year in Ramsey County. Can you tell me what specifically would have increased that? And what it was is 3.5 of it comes from just the interest rate, which doesn't, obviously we don't control that here. And then he said, we are always, when they do this, it's a lag. So for this year, we're comparing 2016 to 2017 data, and they're behind. And in that particular year, we saw a significant increase of soybeans and a significant decrease in barley. And he said also the livestock calf prices increased in 17 over 16, and there were also larger government payments. And it's, so that, caused, that's what he says, caused part of the increase. But back to everyone says it's like rocket science that nobody really understands how they're coming up with.
So he did have some answers.
He did have some answers, and the interest rates, let me read that too. I didn't quite understand, but what it actually stems from is a 12-year Olympic average, and they get it from the Agri Bank in St. Paul, and it's average egg land loan for the average risk farmer. So that's where, and the bank actually just gives him the number to plug in there. So there's a lot of people working in this.
Just out of curiosity, that means that the whole thing for valuation is about a 2-year lag. So in other words, if crop prices, if everything, went to bargain basement levels, it would take 2 years for that to reflect in the.
Well, it's gonna take longer than that because it's a 12-year
Right.
average on the poll too, so you're just gonna drop the top and bottom. So at some point in time here in the next, like you said, since it's a lag, we're still basically using 2006 as the last year, I think. So once we start rolling into those 8, 9, 10 years and dropping those off of the average, then we're gonna start to see a decrease, I would guess.
Yeah.
But it's gonna take another 3 years to get to that point.
The second question I asked him is, can you tell me what the future holds for Ramsey County? And obviously he couldn't, and he said, but without, something major occurring, he foresees us to continue to have increases on the value year to year. And the reason why I asked that is just, obviously this year we may have to do a 2 or above % increase, wanting to make sure we're thinking of the next year and the next year, and so we don't all of a sudden, or whatever you want to do, but throw an 8% increase or something like that. I think one year we had to do a 14% increase and that was painful,
I imagine it was during the years of, high water table.
Yeah,
If we get some of those acres back on the tax roll, that's gonna help.
that's definitely something, I didn't put that down for talking about today, but it's something that I have reached out to a couple people on, is possibly making a change. Steve was going to put together some information for me on how it would affect us. I asked him to do 1451 And where I came up from that number was a farmer that, from that, kind of the Churches Ferry area, Penn area, was in, that's been very involved in all of this. And I had asked him his opinion and that, and he felt that that would be a decent starting point. And we don't want to have to change it every year, but if we did, that is probably fairly safe if things came back up or fluctuated. So I did ask Steve to try and run our LiDAR again and see what that would change on how that would affect our county. And then obviously we'll bring it to the soils committee in April when they come in too. But that is something if people want to start thinking about, we could take a look at.
Yeah. that sounds
And
good.
he was not, and why I kind of asked him is I wanted to see the reaction of somebody that has, a lot of land under the lake and has lost a lot. And he was really positive. I mean, he's like, if I can farm it, I'll pay for it, not a problem at all. So that was nice to know too, that it may not be a hardship for people in that situation.
No, I'm sure they'd be more than willing to pay the taxes if they could farm that land
Yeah.
again. Like, it's highly productive land.
Yeah,
Like I said, I think the main thing is we just have to make sure that we keep it a level so we're not flipping up and
Right,
down, up and
right.
down, and just try our best to, so we're not making adjustments every single year, because I suppose that's a ton of work for you guys.
yeah,
too, so.
just notices of things of that nature for the people, let alone just doing the numbers, it does.
So pick a safe level to move
Right.
at, and
Right.
just kind of keep moving incrementally at those levels, that'll be
You
safe.
gotta be really careful, you don't even wanna adjust it every 5 years, or
Yeah.
anything,
And sure.
it's scary.
But hopefully we'll get some information from Steve once we do that, and then I can look at it and bring something back.
Just while it's fresh in my mind to make mention, the Eggland value thing, like you said, it's complicated. If anybody's interested, I found a really interesting PowerPoint from NDSU that explains it, but it's, if you wanna fall asleep, I suppose.
We do have, and
It's pretty wonky, but it is quite interesting seeing how they factor in all the different things. So I sat down one morning and I was like,
They do have it simplified to one page
Yeah.
that I could drop off with you guys, but it really leaves out a lot, I'm pretty sure.
yeah, the PowerPoint it's not long, it was probably 20 slides or something, but it was pretty interesting. Because actually my Egglender asked me how they derived the number, and I said, I understand it, I said, but it's really complicated. So I was gonna send him the PowerPoint so he could read it too.
And kind of from what I understand from Ron is, he is now the person that does it. I mean, there's not a lot of people that are even working involved in it.
No, there's about 5 people in the state, I think, that actually work on it and understand it completely.
Well, it's good to have that, we gotta have some starting point, gotta have some information and, they be able to explain what they did. So, we all know at financial institutions how much information they want, so.
And then that is all I have today.
Okay.
Anyone?
Any other-
All right.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.
Thanks, Pat.
Kevin?
Guess the only thing I have to bring up is we need to set the rates for our summer maintenance contracts for next year's blade, or this year's blade. Last year it was $260 a mile and $120 an hour. And I included the Excel spreadsheet there that shows how our actual cost came in. I don't know what copy you guys have there, but some of mine aren't red. Some of these are estimated numbers on the top for 2019, what we're estimating it's gonna cost. $147 an hour. And that's all based on what we spend for running the machines. And then the second group of numbers is our actual cost for 2018. We contracted 841 miles, and the revenue from that was $222,000, and we actually spent $533,000, which averaged $634 a mile, and we charged $260. So what I'm proposing is that we raise our mileage rate by $5 and then leave the hourly rates the same. Next year, we'll start, well, in 2020, we'll be getting 3 new blades, theoretically. So that'll put the price up just a little bit more, because these are depreciated out now. So I think we need to do minimal increases, and we want to try and catch up this year. Our hourly rates probably are gonna stay closer to the same. They're not gonna raise that much with the new machines. But the depreciation and the cost of the new machines will make that change.
So you figure a $5 increase per mile is enough to cover your increased costs going forward, at least for this year?
Yeah, it won't cover them, but at least it's, we're getting close to halfway. That was always used to be our goal, that if we could charge half and subsidize half.
Do you know how much we'd have to raise them to get to halfway?
We need to go to about 315.
So a lot more.
Looks like the last time we did a big jump like that was 2009.
Yeah, and that was not well received. And I think at that time, we met with the township officers and said that we should be doing small increments instead of a big, large one.
But I think you could make an argument that more than 5 could still be considered a small increment. Because, well, you know, that gap, and just guessing on how things get more expensive over time, we will never catch up.
No.
We'll be falling behind, but maybe a little bit more slowly, right?
Right.
So I think we ought to at least be keeping up with how our costs are increasing, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, if we could go that way, that's, just as a side note, the century code says that we're not supposed to charge less than our actual cost, but every county in North Dakota is not doing that, so.
You got any examples, Kevin? Don't need to name the county, but.
I don't think, Burley County is probably the only county that's charging what they actually,
They're right up there.
yeah. It's the only one I know of. There may be others, but there's very few.
Do their townships have any money? They all operate in the red.
In Burley?
Yeah.
In Burley, they have the sales tax and the gas tax and the license tax and.
County pretty much takes care of all the roads. Townships, you know, they're there. They don't really call when they need anything. The Burley takes care of it themselves.
Right, they do charge them, but,
I like to say they got sales tax,
yeah.
and they must be taking quite a chunk of the property tax, you know, to cover their costs also.
Right.
No, they've got nice gravel roads in Burley County, believe me. They're not, they don't have a lot of miles. You don't find the road very often, but what they do have are good roads.
Their gas tax alone that they receive is probably 3 to 4 times higher than what we're getting, so it's basically the same amount of miles, just because of the amount of vehicles.
So what do you think they'd be willing to stomach as far as an increase? Or do you really feel that $5 is what you need? Because to me, that doesn't sound like we're treading water at best.
It's a tough call.
Well, it's sort of who wants to get screamed at, right?
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm looking at it from the aspect of, so 17 was a 550, and we weren't at 50% then, but we were somewhat close, at least a little bit closer. I mean, what contributed to the cost jumping so quickly in 18 versus 17, I guess? You know, we were slowly rising, you know, but.
I think the weather has a lot to do with that, if they're able to get out and blade more, spend more time doing it. We actually put more hours on the machines in the summer this year than normal, whatever normal is.
A lot more deadheading, a lot more driving back and forth, getting the spots.
We don't charge for deadheading, so that probably didn't come into play. It's just the matter of actual hours they were doing the work. A lot of times we do them more than 6 times. We don't stop at 6.
It was taking them longer to accomplish the same amount of work just because of, like you said, rain and stuff.
Rain delays, yep, exactly, yep.
Explain this to me, Kevin. sometimes I see the blade go down the road, the blade's up, and they go down, and they go across the township line, and they're in blade for that township. Is there any way to get these townships, like 3 or 4 of them to work together and say, okay, when you want your roads graded, bladed, blade ours too? I mean, would that help the county, or would that help minimize our costs, or, you know, like what we're paying the man, whether he's got the blade up or down,
Right, well,
and like you say, deadheading, we don't charge.
no, and you have to do it, it's kinda like combining a field, you can't combine your way to the next field, you know?
Right.
And look, I can't say that every time you see them deadheading with a blade up there, they can't be doing something, but I would say 90% of the time they're trying to get somewhere without
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
it.
I assume that the townships are calling when they want their blading.
No, a lot of them, they're all, when we do the contracts, they're set up on a route.
Okay.
And then when that route comes to the end, they just start again, go all the way around.
Yeah, we try to, the routes are as efficient as we can really get, it's just a matter of, like you said, if it starts to rain or something, you gotta stop for the day, and you gotta head back, and then you gotta.
And if you're at the south end of your route, then you're deadheading back, and then the next day, you're deadheading back again, and
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
so that deadheading's a little deceiving. There is probably times when they could be blading their way there, but not very often.
And basically, we're subsidizing the road maintaining with property taxes.
Yes, we are. And I think it might be a good idea to wait till next year to see how those numbers come in next year, because this is a little skewed. I'll even admit, it looks skewed to me. I mean, it jumped big time.
And it's considerably up.
That's why I was kinda looking at 17, thinking maybe if we split half of the 17 price, so maybe did a $15 increase and went to 275, and that way we're at least increasing a little bit more, we're not jumping crazy, and then maybe hopefully prices come back down in 19 more to like a 17 level, and then we'd be closer to 50%. I mean, it's not perfect, but
But I mean, we're just trying to shoot it dartboard anyway.
yeah,
Right.
just kinda, I mean, at the end of the day, regardless of if we go up $5, $10, $15, the townships are still getting a deal.
Yeah, they are, absolutely.
And that's what has to be conveyed to them.
Yeah, they couldn't go anywhere else, contractors or anywhere and get a better deal, guaranteed.
But I mean, I just think it doesn't make sense for the county to increasingly take on a larger and larger and larger share of those costs. So I think $15 sounds better to me, and maybe we just go for it, because I don't think.
We look out the window today, and I'm sure our blades are quite busy, so.
Yeah, our big piece of machinery we got's going today.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I feel for where the townships are coming from, because they're limited on budget too. I mean, there's just no way around it. But
And hopefully they'll get their,
maybe there'll be some money available through
Yeah,
the infrastructure bill, but it's still not gonna be enough.
prairie dog,
$10,000
I think
is,
that prairie dog bill is gonna allow them some money.
That's gonna go through it, and I feel will too.
they said there's gonna be some amendments, it looks like, but
What have you heard?
I haven't heard what the amendments will be, but they're gonna try to shift it around a little bit possibly. I don't know if they're thinking they're gonna not have as much money, but it sounds like the county funding's gonna be safe. I don't know if they're gonna look at the other funding.
I heard they were concerned with the state not getting any.
They're the ones controlling it. Do you do whatever they want.
Do you need a motion on this, Kevin?
Yep.
Okay, and so if we raise the per mile rate by $15, are you for sure comfortable with the hourly rate at this point? Like, we don't need to change that?
Maybe we should put $5 on that then too, just to kind of stay in line.
Okay.
Reasonable.
Well, then in that case, I'd make that motion, that we increase our per mile rate by $15 and increase our hourly rate by $5 for 2019 year.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, you're gonna be at 275 and 125, that's correct?
Private will be 130.
Okay, motion and a second on that, any other discussion? Anything else to add? You're gonna send a letter?
Yep, but it'll be in their contracts. Yep.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Paul Bjornson had some stuff we wanted to.
Bring our hard hats to the township office.
In the back.
Yeah. Okay. Something down.
Two things, he had the Talking on Ramsey County too, our paving project next summer, I was concerned that they were gonna wanna, it's not very wide, the shoulders kind of fall off faster. And as you raise that up, of course, it gets worse, and I was concerned they would have to mill off some asphalt. Well, it turns out we're not gonna have to do that, so that was a good thing, but I just wanted to bring you up to speed on that. We don't have any preliminary numbers or anything, but. And then the other thing that Paul had was, on the Stratus paving project last summer, the final records are ready to go except for the fuel cost adjustments, which won't be much, but their numbers were higher than ours. And he sent it in for justification and haven't got an answer back to him. We are holding some retainage on that yet, so like about $4,000 retainage, but we will have to pay them. So that part of that retainage will be in the fuel adjustment if there is one. That's all Paul had, that's all I have.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Question for Kevin, any more? Snowplow is working all right, and are you keeping up?
Yeah, our Webster man had a pacemaker put in, so he's been gone for 2 weeks. But everybody's kind of picking up the slack, covering for each other, so gets to be some late days. We're taking care of it.
That's good.
So you may hear that Webster area break on low. We're getting a little behind up there, but we're doing our best.
Very good, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, we'll move into new business, approval of homestead credit abatement.
So,
Sorry, motion, got a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Review revised attorney's retainer contract, we'll let Terry talk about that.
So this was the opioid litigation contract that the commission had voted to go forward with a while back. After reviewing it one additional time, there was a lot of references in the contract to the city attorney, the city. There was also one provision in the contract that wasn't clear about when they were going to take their attorney fees out of any type of recovery if they were to get one. They actually said that they would be taken out before or after. So I asked them to clarify that, and it was as I suspected before, so they would take theirs off the top before any splits. So they made the changes that I requested, and it essentially is the same as what was voted on before, just now instead of city or county, they just refer to us as the client.
Thank you, Terry. Thanks for straightening that out.
Do we need to make a motion to re-sign it then, since it's revised?
Correct.
Okay, I'll make a motion to allow the chair to re-sign the contract.
second that.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Any other discussion?
As it relates just to that topic, Jim, the New York Times had a really nice article out within the last few days about these lawsuits, and now that they are the judge that's assigned to hear them over in Ohio, the first bellwether cases are going to start now fairly quickly. So settlement did not occur in a year like he had hoped for. So the test cases will be coming on the docket. But it was a nice summary, so if anybody's interested, I can forward that link.
Yeah, there's some interesting stuff coming out of the Massachusetts Attorney General, Sue Perdue Hartman. So there's some really interesting information coming out of that about the things they knew and didn't know,
And when they knew it.
When they knew it.
didn't know.
when they knew it was addictive and they still were pushing it, and that kind of stuff. Kind of interesting.
Yeah. Very good. Any other questions or discussion? We have a motion and a second on that. We did vote on that.
No, we have not voted yet.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Very good. Review information from the State Health Department. Read it, I hope everybody's read it. They want to start? One thing I would say is, let's let Carrie start, she's read it too.
Well, I looked at it. Jeff, I think, also had some contact with Carl with the North Dakota Department of Health, and what they're looking for from Ramsey County is what local zoning authority has the jurisdiction under the matter, whether it be Ramsey County or Pelican Pelican has their own zoning, they haven't given that authority back to Ramsey County, so that will factor into my opinion, which would be that it's going to take place under Pelican Township's zoning. So essentially, they need a legal opinion to that effect, or whatever the case may be after I look through our zoning, look at Pelicans, and when Pelicans was adopted, what they had prior. And then I would draft an opinion for the permit. They want it by February 15th. Is my
They
understanding.
didn't say which year,
Yeah, that's a good point, you know what?
monkey around with it long enough.
Oh, that's, oh, no, they do know 2019.
They do know that.
They do know 2019, so I can't push it off till 2020.
Where's our zoning and planning in the county, Jeff? Where is it at?
It's coming, but, you know, we've kind of, we approved things, some things at the committee level. And we were waiting for some other things that we needed to get done and just haven't done them.
From KLJ?
Well, KLJ committee, you know, the committee took a different direction than where KLJ was leading us down. Right, wrong, or otherwise, that was the committee's choice to do that. And so I think that is a big part of the delay, was that, and once we got things back from KLJ, it was felt that it maybe wasn't what exactly Ramsey County wanted, or in the minds of the committee, what Ramsey County wanted. It was more along the lines of maybe a more urban county within our state. And so we've kind of taken a different turn and gone in some directions that we'll have to bring forth as a committee to the public, to the commission for their approvals, so.
Yeah, it's been an interesting process. There've been a lot of votes that have gone by one, you know, direction.
The one thing that we did do in regards to animal feeding ordinance and the medical marijuana, or the medicinal marijuana, was we adopted what the state had set forth in their policies, in their zoning.
So we're strictly what the state does.
Exactly, yeah,
Okay.
nothing further, nothing,
Well, but that, I mean, that's not our real ordinance though. But, you know, that's just,
but then again, that's just at a committee level.
right.
We still need to have a public hearing on that whole zoning plan and then bring forth to the commission for our approval as a county commission. From the committee level, that's what we have done.
So I mean, there'd be no way we could even get that approved if we wanted to before this would require an answer.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't matter anyway, because this is all the paperwork was filed under the previous zoning anyway.
Right.
Well, and I mean, I think we've conducted ourselves pretty well in agreement that we don't have the authority over this situation, right?
Well, that's kind of what.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, that's kind of why I thought it was interesting that the state health department sends us information asking for an opinion. Isn't that the AG's job? Why is that our job?
Well, they just, I think, wanted clarification between Ramsey County and Pelham Township.
So what you're telling me is they want their product out there?
Yeah.
Yeah, they probably don't want us barging after them.
In a non-polite way, I'm just saying, that they want to make sure that they're looking at the right things.
Correct.
Do we need a motion of any kind? Or are we just essentially stating is,
I would just ask for a motion for me to go forward with.
Let's just a second, though, Lucas, I wanna hear from, Carrie said you talked to the gentleman that sent us a letter.
I did talk to Carl yesterday afternoon, just to get a clarification of what they were looking for, and that's really essentially what they are looking for is what local jurisdiction has the zoning authority over that location. Is it the county commission or is it the township itself? And so that's kind of what they are looking for, is, okay, who has the zoning authority, and does this permit as it sits meet with those zoning parameters that zoning authority has set forth.
And you told them whatever the state permits, that's what Ramsey County will permit.
Well, I said we would bring it up with our state's attorney and let her decide who's got the local authority over it, and then decide from there.
I have two questions, I guess.
Yep.
How do I phrase this? So, I haven't dove into Century Code enough to find it, but so are there certain things when, okay, so the townships, if they don't essentially abdicate their zoning authority, the county retains?
Correct.
Or the
You're welcome.
township retains, the county gets it if the township relieves of that? Are there certain portions of the zoning that the county retains regardless, like an animal feedlot or anything, or does the township take all of the zoning authority?
It's gonna depend on
Otherwise.
what they have written down, yes. Yes.
Then that kind of leads to my second question then. If the township, for instance, and I'll use Noonan for an example, I don't think we have any, I think we have handed ours to the county, but say there was a township out there that hadn't handed theirs to the county and had never adopted any formal zoning.
Then I think the county.
Then the counties would prevail.
Yep.
Okay, that was my only question on it. So even if the township has the zoning authority, our county one probably would sit in there, would be what they would go back to if they had never passed anything.
Correct.
Okay. I was just curious, I've never really gotten an opinion on that, because I've been like, well then what, is it like the Wild West, or does the counties
No.
take
then
over,
then
or?
the counties would take
Right.
over.
You know, because we have zoning on it, it's just, you know, it's obviously open ag land and it's under feedlot, so. And it's pretty straightforward, it's not that complicated. It's got a couple of setbacks and says we need basically all the stuff that the state health department gets. And it's,
And that's what the old ordinance said.
yeah, the old ordinance basically just says that you have to be off 150 feet off the line to store manure, 150 feet off the line with any building, pen, corral. And then other than that, yeah, pretty straightforward. Other than the one thing that would be interesting, and I don't know how this is all gonna play out because it has to do with the township, but there is a petition portion of it as well, which is kinda interesting.
They could petition to change it.
No, the petition is that there has to be a petition signed by 75% of the property owners within a 2-mile radius approving the permit. And I don't know if that's legal or not, but I'm just saying it's in there.
What are you reading there?
I'm reading ours from
From our book?
Yeah.
And do you know the date of that one?
Well, it's the 1991 that we have
Yeah,
on our
and then
website.
there was a Supreme Court case.
Yeah, and I looked at the Supreme Court case,
Which kept the setbacks.
did it cap the setbacks?
No, it kept the setbacks.
It kept the setbacks, yeah, because I looked at the Supreme Court case, it's kind of interesting actually.
It is.
I'm not a lawyer by any stretch, so I was sitting there looking at it going, what the heck am I reading here, but
Where are you at here?
it's gonna be on the second page about halfway down. More than anything, it's just kind of interesting. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean anything, it's just interesting more than anything.
But for this particular case, it's sort of irrelevant because they have their own zoning.
Well, and I need to look at their zoning, because they've redone some zoning too over in Pelican.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we don't have a dog in the fight, so I'm just looking at it going, it's just kind of interesting how it's laid out more than anything.
Okay, well then I would still make the motion that Carrie be
I'm
approved to write a legal opinion.
Yeah, I'm belaboring the point here.
Okay, your motion's gonna say what, Lucas?
That Carrie is approved to write a legal opinion on who has the authority over zoning.
I'll second that.
Second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Okay.
Motion to adjourn and enter executive session.
Yeah, I better read this.
yes.
The next item on the agenda is an executive session to receive attorney consultation related to legal actions associated with the labor of and employment of Deputy Jennifer Behrman. The legal authority of the closing of this portion of the meeting is NDCC 4404-191. The purpose of this executive session is for attorney consultation pursuant to NDCC 44-04-191. At this time, in the motion would be ordered to discuss the next topic in executive session rather than an opening meeting. Is there such a motion and a second? We need a motion and a second to go into executive session.
I'll move.
Second. We have a second. Roll call.
Olson,
Aye.
Frith,
Aye.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Lightfoot.
Aye.
Brown.
Okay, executive session will be recorded and all members of the governing body are reminded to limit their discussion during the executive session to the announced topic. Prohibition of any undertaking of the final action during the executive session does not apply to providing guidance or instructions to our attorney. Ask members of the public to leave the room and anticipate adjourning the executive session, reconvening the open portion of the meeting in 30 minutes.
No, he's got it.
Nobody's out there waiting for us, so.
Do we need to take that motion to adjourn, or
The visitors and delegations, that'll be pretty short then. Huh?
We never.
Okay, with none of that, we'll move into the report on portfolios. Let's go through that. Adam, go ahead.
I got some quick. Social services, I wasn't at the meeting, but we talked about, I can't remember what the bill number is now.
2124.
2124.
Yeah.
Concerns about that, slowly moving forward. The directors had obviously some concerns with the state county thing still, so they're working on that. We'll see what kind of form it takes. County Housing Authority, I'm trying to think if we meet next week, so we haven't met since, nothing too crazy there. The one thing I should say in the bills, and I didn't make note of it, I talked with Roger about it, we haven't obviously awarded a contract on that lift coming down basement up, but in order to get a better estimate than the kind of, we saw what, $38,000 or whatever, to get a better estimate from the one company he's been able to find that will service and sell those out of Bismarck. In the bills, we did pay them to come up and measure it and do a full scale look at it to make sure we had a really good quality estimate before to look at. And it costs a little bit of money to do it, but Roger asked me if that would be okay, and I thought that, yeah, we want to make sure we're doing the right thing. We got an actual cost. So, Roger did that. It cost like $400, I think, mileage and the time to do that. So hopefully we'll get a good estimate on that so we can have an idea. Other portfolio stuff, nothing too crazy, I guess. Yeah, everything's kind of going on.
Lucas?
District Health Board approved its budget for the year, pretty well in line with what it was last year. And the only other thing that I can think of is the Heritage Center has gotten somebody to run their after-school program, so that'll be starting in short order. That'll be good. They're looking to take on, you heard her talk about it, 17 kids or so. So that's exciting. They've been a really great feedback on that. That's
Probably a good program. Anything else? You're good? Jeff?
Nothing, Bill and Carrie were both here and gave reports and what they're doing, and so, other than that, it's been a busy legislative session with everything, water bills, the water resource districts are not gonna be elected as it was proposed in a legislation. That bill was defeated. Somebody wanted the water resource districts and the board members elected instead of appointed by county commissioners. The snagging and clearing cost share that we supported as a commission, that did make it through the Senate. Although for some unknown reason, our local senator voted no on it. But that did make it through the Senate and will make its way through the House. And that, all that is just allows water resource districts to include a snagging and clearing project and application for cost share to the State Water Commission. It doesn't say that the Water Commission has to cost share it, it just says they're eligible for cost share. So, and it made a big difference with some of those projects, especially in the eastern part of the state. And it passed through the Senate at a 44-4 gap, so there was a lot of support for putting that back on. We did go down and provide some testimony on aquatic nuisance funding. There's an aquatic nuisance funding program bill that was submitted and drafted by the Sports Fishing Congress, just to come up with some additional funding for game and fish to further their education, enforcement, type of activities for aquatic nuisance. Something that we feel very strongly about in the Devil's Lake Basin, keeping critters out of our lake that doesn't belong. The only way you're going to do that is through added enforcement, added education, added dollars for those type of programs for game and fish, and so that's one of the things that Sports Fishing Congress promoted, and that's something that we felt and have felt very strongly about for a number of years. So, it's a big part of our economy is local recreation fishing, and as much grief as we get about our water quality is pretty dark red. And we want to keep it that way. We want to keep those zebra mussels, common carp, other carp species, other type of vegetation, whether it be nuisance weeds within our waterways, out of our area, and keep our lakes and our coulees in the Devil's Lake Basin as pristine as possible. So, but that funding source would benefit the entire state. Right now, zebra mussels are isolated to the Red River. Further expansion west and getting closer and closer to Devil's Lake would be bad for our waterways. They're a very extremely prolific creature. I gave an example down to the legislative, the Senate Natural Resource and Energy Committee about a lake in Minnesota that's about similar size to Devil's Lake that got zebra mussels back in, what was it, 2000? By 2008, they had overtaken and completely have had a full-blown outbreak within their waterways. And there's estimated to have 2 trillion zebra mussels within their lake. And they suspended walleye fishing. It's down to a catch and release program only. So I asked the legislators, is that something that you would like, is to come up and whatever game fishing you're catching, whether it be walleye or perch or what have you, at your favorite watering hole, not being able to catch any or keep any of those. 2 trillion zebra mussels able to filter the water in Lake Mille Lacs every day and a half, approximately.
The entire
body of water, 140,000 acres of surface water, about 2.9 million gallons, or something in that neighborhood, or no, 2.9 million acre feet of water, so it was close to 2 trillion gallons of water. What they do is they filter and they take out the phytoplankton, which feed the zooplankton and on up the food chain. And so it has a detrimental effect on game fish. So, if we can keep them out of Devil's Lake as long as possible, maybe some point in the future there's some bright kid that comes up with a solution to terminate them. So, and I know they're working on it without absolutely sterilizing your entire body of water, but that's the only alternative they have right now. And that's not 100% effective either. They've tried that in Minnesota with Christmas Lake down by the Twin Cities, which is a smaller body of water, where they could sterilize the lake, and zebra mussels actually came back. So.
And they're tiny, aren't they?
They're very tiny. They're about the size of your thumbnail. So, but they attached any hard surface underneath the surface of the water, whether it be native clams or mussels, docks, rocks, anything that has a hard surface, comes out of the water just completely covered with zebra mussels. And then when those zebra mussels live through their life expectancy of 3 to 5 years, and their dead and decaying shells wash up on the beach and make it extremely, you can't walk on the shores anymore without some sort of hard-soled shoe, otherwise they'll cut your shoes, and then the decaying, rotting flesh of their little seashells sting. So, yeah.
Sounds like something we really want.
No. So it's one of those things that from a water perspective scares the bejesus out of me. It really does. Because they're so prolific in reproducing. A female will reproduce, what is it, 1 billion eggs in her lifetime? You know, a billion offspring.
We definitely don't want them
No.
anywhere near.
No. And then they have another dangerous cousin, the aquagua mussel, which survives at a much deeper water level. And they're running prevalent in the Great Lakes systems, and it's costing the Great Lakes about $500,000 annually to clean and maintain their waterways, whether it be cleaning those off water intakes, for example. Any type of water intake they'll come into and they'll attach themselves to, and then you're not as efficient as the intake source.
Suppose they're all up the same where it's spillway and all that stuff up there.
Well, they came in back in the late 80s through a village in a seafaring boat, and once they dumped their ballast out into the Great Lakes, they were included in there, and that's how they became established. So they're from the Caspian Sea, and there's no native natural predators to them. So, but every 4 days, Lake Michigan is completely refreshed because of the number of aquagua and zebra mussels in Lake Michigan, which, big body of water.
Okay,
Yeah.
any other?
No, I like to, you get me on a soapbox and I'll.
Does the legislators understand all this?
They do, they have some really
Do
interesting.
you think it's gonna hit home or sink in their head,
Well,
or how about the state game and fish?
The game and fish are doing what they can do with the limited amount of funds that they have.
Oh, boy, don't tell me too much about that now.
Yeah, well, and it's something that they need to understand that we're really pretty serious about preventing. You know, I've sat on that aquatic nuisance committee down at the Game and Fish for 8 years now, and we just redid our aquatic nuisance management plan. And it seems like Devils Lake, Lake Sakakawea are the areas of the state that are really highly concerned about these aquatic nuisance species coming in, and really push for additional this, additional that, additional whatever to try to prevent and stop it at all costs. And you know, the old adage, and something I used in my presentation, was the old adage of ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and never so prevalent in aquatic nuisance. Because once they're here and established, there's no getting rid of them. They're just, you cannot eradicate them from the waterways. And so.
Dry the lake up, huh?
Yeah, they can absolutely change the ecology of a lake, a stream, a river, what have you. So extremely devastating.
Okay, anything else?
No, I guess I don't have anything else.
I can make everybody happy, just give you a little quick stat for the month of January. We're 40% higher in criminal cases from
Really?
last year.
Well, the jail bill's gonna go up too then, huh?
Well, yeah, probably.
Yay.
I think that
Okay.
just shows that our law enforcement agencies are very busy. Very busy.
They are.
What kind of cases have you been seeing mostly?
I would have to get the breakdown, but I would say of the 84 filed to date, there's probably more felonies this time than there was this time last year. For the most part, it's, you know, your standard now we have some robberies and some burglaries and unauthorized use of, basically identity theft type cases, drug cases, of course.
Good report, huh?
Yeah. Well,
Thanks for telling us.
maybe June will be slow, nice weather, something better to do.
Mark?
Well, we've talked about the sheriff's department, so that's pretty much done, and LEC is rolling right along. You can elaborate on that, because you kind of talked to the higher ups a little more than I do. So.
I know they took some BIA prisoners in.
Yeah.
They had
Well, They
5.
have some of those, yeah.
A little trouble at the start. They told BIA they didn't want any medication. They had 5 show up, and 2 or 3 had medications they had to get straightened out. But I apologize, I haven't talked to them for probably 10 days, so I've been tied up a little bit, so, but I will roll it today or tomorrow. And in social service, I thought went pretty good on that bill, like 2124 bill. It's, looks all right. I read through it.
Yeah, I haven't seen the changes yet.
No, get to page 33.
Page 33?
Yeah,
That's where the fun is?
that's the one that really trips your trigger. They did mine. A lot of dictating going on there, so
Yeah.
I'm just hoping to work it out and hope it works for everybody concerned. It's, differences of opinion, and I guess they're quite prevalent all the way through the state, you know, about takeover and.
Well, I think that's, I mean, I shouldn't say part of the problem, but I think that's part of the concern is that some counties are, I wouldn't say okay, but they're like, well, this'll maybe work, and some of them are kind of hardlining it, and some of them are just completely like, we want out of this thing.
Yeah.
So when you can't get everybody on the same page, it's really tough to walk in there and make a case of, this is what we want.
And I don't know if you heard the suggestion the other night there, I said, well, let's give it 2 more years and let some of these counties, you know, receive it better, you know.
I don't necessarily disagree with that, at least from the aspect of, like you said, block granted for 2 more years, put the levels at 19 levels and let it just roll out for a couple more years and then slowly move the implementation in instead of this,
Yeah.
you know, I
Read
think that's
page
part,
33.
yeah, that's part of the concern is it's just, okay, September 1, it's gonna be, it's like, man, that's a real short time frame.
Page 33 is pretty appalling, I think.
Well, the thing is it's the concept of zones is kind of naturally occurring in the districts, because, you know, we all see what's happening, so
Right.
we're kind of naturally just saying, where can we find efficiencies ourselves?
Yeah.
And it wouldn't hurt if it gets pushed along a little bit, but it doesn't have to be like that, you know, and I think that's a big concern, so.
And like we've been with Towner and we give and take there, and I can't believe Benson would, you know, fall in there and be very workable also eventually. I mean, sure there'll be some.
Yeah, and we could make mention of that, we haven't met with Benson County yet, I know we've talked, that Benson has contacted us about possibly coming in and forming into our district. We've had some just trying to coordinate to get a meeting together of both social services boards. And then I think the intent, and I don't know if it's how it'll go or not, but the intent would be then probably to have a smaller panel of maybe 4 members, 2 from each side or something, like a working group, and try to hammer out where our difference would be to see if it'll work or not. But we're hopefully sometime here in February, we're gonna get that started, so. At least that's the goal.
Yeah, I
Trying
think-
to see if we're gonna get it done or not.
Anything else? Announcements?
Buy your Valentine's Day flowers
Order early?
order early.
Get them twice?
So don't wait until 4:15.
Don't wait till 4:15 on Valentine's Day now.
You just order some today and then order some next week, see, then it's surprising. That's what you should
I like that
do.
attitude.
I
Surprising.
think all the Valentine's
Twice the money
Days,
for work.
and all the holidays during the year, we're all made up for florists. I think that's the fact.
We don't have a problem with it.
What you need to do for people that can't travel to this area is start a Memorial Day service where you can go put your stuff out on cemeteries.
I do that.
Do you did not know that.
Yep. I spent a whole day out there driving around looking for things.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's another countryside where all the cemeteries are.
Okay, anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Got a motion, do a second.
Second.
Very good.